You're with India 360. Now, you may be frustrated with speed cameras on highways, but definitely don't do what this guy did. Police have released surveillance videos of a suspect destroying a speed camera in Washington, D.C. A car can be seen pulling up next to a speed camera. Then a man runs up to the standing camera and knocks it down. He can even be seen trying to rip out pieces with his bare hands. His job done, he then walks back to the car before driving off. Police say at least 4 other speed cameras were knocked over, damaged or destroyed within a 2-kilometer radius that night. At least 4 buses went up in flames in Karnataka's Kalaburgi today after a massive fire broke out in a bus depot. Firefighters managed to douse the blaze which ravaged the Kalaburgi bus depot run by the Northeastern Karnataka Road Transport Corporation. In an effort to build trust and ensure peace, Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani made an offer to the Taliban that the government will recognize them as a legitimate political group to end more than 16 years of war. The proposal includes a ceasefire, release of prisoners, the possibility of them even contesting elections, so the militant group can be involved in a political process. A 45-year-old woman who was being brutally tortured by her husband in Lahore will be returning to India. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has asked the Indian High Commission in Pakistan to facilitate her return. Mohammadiya Begum, based out of Hyderabad, has sought strict action against her husband's family for damaging her life, she says. Continuing his tirade against the ruling Congress in Karnataka, Prime Minister Narendra Modi accused the Siddaramaiah government of corruption and twisted the Chief Minister's name, saying the government had turned into a Seedha Rupaiya instead of the Siddaramaiah government. He accused the state of taking commission to implement projects.
कर्नाटक में सीधा रामैया की सरकार चल रही है, लेकिन हकीकत तो ये है कि यहाँ सीधा रुपये की सरकार चल रही है. ये सीधा रुपया अब जाना चाहिए.
Using such low-level language against our Chief Minister, who represents Karnataka, he is also an insult to Karnataka and Kannadigas. He is not fit to be a Prime Minister.
Truly made in China. Here's how they are punishing drivers who violate parking rules. Cars are meant for roads, but sometimes in China, you can find them on top of buildings as well. The authorities in the country have found a novel way of penalizing parking violators. A driver who left his car illegally parked in the middle of a bus station was taught a lesson in the most unique manner in Hubei province. The traffic department decided to use a crane to lift the car and place it on top of a building. Strangely enough, this isn't the first time a car owner has been taught a lesson like this in China. Just last year, security guards at a residential complex used a crane to move a woman's car out of the way. A unique idea, and as usual, made in China. A woman in Florida thought her water bill was too high, so she decided to stage a penny protest. Dana McCool paid her water bill of $493 in pennies. That's 49,300 coins. She actually had to use a small wagon to haul in the sacks of coins to the municipal office. McCool said she wanted to send a message that water bills in the city were too expensive. Well, she certainly made quite a splash. U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner has been stripped of his access to the nation's top secrets after his security clearance was downgraded. This comes after the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, brought in changes to the security clearance system to ensure that only selected few got permanent access to White House's documents. Kelly had reportedly been unhappy with the high number of aides without permanent access and has worked to shrink that number of temporary clearances. Brushing aside controversy over deleting his tweet on the RSS ideologue Veer Savarkar, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu hit out at his critics for making a big issue out of it. Naidu's stern reply comes after the RSS and the TDP's own ally, the BJP, accused him of playing cheap politics over what they call was a national hero. The Telangana government has urged the Defence Ministry to sanction a defence industrial corridor for the state. Industries Minister K.T. Ramarao reportedly wrote a letter to Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman for her nod. Remember, the centre has proposed to set up 2 defence manufacturing bases, one in Bundelkhand and the other between Chennai and Bengaluru.
Saying it's only the builder.
The SBI has hiked deposit rates by 10 to 50 basis points, and more banks are likely to follow suit. This means that 45-day deposits will earn an annual interest rate of 5.75%, up from 5.25% earlier. Meanwhile, deposits maturing between 2 years and 10 years will earn 6.50% compared with the earlier 6%. And this is what you call nailing a world record. It's a record that'll give you the pins and needles. Vispi Baji Kasad and Vispi Jimmy Kharadi, the multiple record-breaking martial arts professionals from India, have made a new record for lying on the most layered bed of nails. Here's how it works. A person at the bottom of the nail sandwich, as it's called, lies on a bed of nails, and then a layer of nails facing upright is placed between each person. The previous record was 6 layers and involved many of the same participants. But this time the team were going for 8 layers. Vispi Kharadi had to take on the most by forming the base layer. He had a weight of almost 1 ton on top of him. The completed formation had to be held for a minimum of 1 minute. And we're happy to report they nailed it. Alright, for all you married couples out there who have had fights over bathroom space, well, this viral song could be for you. In our bathroom we have one big shelf. She has one side and there's one side for myself. Doesn't it sound like a recipe for marital disaster? Well, think again. Face mask, bubble bath, bath crystals, bath bombs, donuts, tea tree and witch hazel, foaming face scrub. We don't know what his wife's reaction was, but the internet is certainly giving him 5 stars. When on my side of the shelf there's one lonely of links. This shellfish song is now going viral. Who knew that a cluttered bathroom would generate a super hit? Sometimes I wish I married one of the lads, and I knock in the shelf, she thinks. When on my side of the shelf there's one lonely tin of links. Alright, we're putting that and all the other big stories on our website, news18.com. That's all for the moment. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. It's over to my colleague Zaka Jacob, who I certainly hope hasn't ever had to resort to this. Zaka.
Well, some things are better flushed down the drain. We'll leave it at that. Thanks very much, Aruna. They're talking about money being flushed down the drain. Today, there was yet another evidence of it. Former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram's son, Karti Chidambaram, the latest example being cited by the government as an example of corruption. Karti Chidambaram arrested in the INX media case. He's now been remanded to 1-day CBI custody. Yet another example, as the government puts it, of an opposition leader who is in jail for alleged corruption. The Congress party, on the other hand, is crying vendetta. They say this is simply a distraction from the Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi scams. The BJP says this is just law enforcement agencies doing their job. The big picture is this, ladies and gentlemen, and let's not, delve too much in the minutiae. Let's not get lost in the detail. The big picture is this. In the run-up to 2019, in the run-up to the next general elections, will the main theme be this: an honest Modi versus a corrupt opposition? But first, let's bring you up to speed with what the Prime Minister and his government have done just in the last couple of weeks alone in what they're calling an unprecedented war on corruption ever since the Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi scams came to light. Number 1, a new anti-swindler law is expected to be brought in Parliament when Parliament reconvenes on the 5th of March. What this will enable investigators to do is to speed up the recovery of dues by people who owe huge amounts of loans to public sector banks. What this law will allow is auction of assets, attachment and auction of assets without a conviction obtained from a court of law. Number 2, a regulator, a pan-India regulator for auditors. Remember, in the PNB scam as well, it was the role of the internal and external auditors that came to light for allowing something like this to happen. Now the government is proposing a pan-India regulator for all chartered accountants. The regulator will review the functioning of auditors, registered chartered accountants all across the country. Number 3, the government, the Finance Ministry, has written to all public sector banks asking for an urgent audit of all NPA accounts that are above 50 crore rupees. and banks have to get back to the Finance Ministry in 15 days giving a status report on all of those NPA accounts that are above 50 crore rupees. And finally, the Prime Minister has repeated this even yesterday at a rally in Davangere in Karnataka, where he said that more than 2 lakh shell companies, their registration has been cancelled. This is from November of 2016 when he announced demonetization. Up until now, more than 2 lakh shell companies, many of them simply used to launder money, have been busted. Their registrations have been cancelled. But about today's story, the Congress has come out all guns blazing, calling Karti Chidambaram's arrest as a clear case of vendetta politics. The BJP, though, maintains that the law is only taking its course.
Classic diversionary tactic by Modi government to hide their own corruption scams.
There are no answers. Scamsters have been allowed to escape in order to divert attention from this major banking scam.
बेईमान हैं उनको छोड़ा नहीं जाएगा, जो ईमानदार हैं उनको छुआ नहीं जाएगा। इस नीति के साथ जो एजेंसियां हैं वो भी काम कर रही हैं और सरकार भी काम कर रही है। इसमें न किसी तरह का पॉलिटिकल वेंडेटा है।
All this corruption has happened because Mr. Chidambaram approved projects which should not have been approved. Therefore, the trail will lead to Chidambaram.
All right, after lengthy arguments, the CBI has got one-day custody of Karti Chidambaram. Let's go straight across to Sahil Murli Meghani, who's joining us from outside the Patiala House Court, where just a few minutes ago, the magistrate gave one-day custody of Karti Chidambaram to the CBI. The CBI, Sahil, had asked for 15 days custody. Why was it whittled down to 1 day? What did the judge say in his order?
That's because, Zaka, you have to look at the kind of arguments that were made inside the court. For the first 4 minutes, it was CBI's turn first. CBI said that they want 15-day custody, and the single line argument that CBI gave was that is needed because Karti Chidambaram has been uncooperative. In the hearing that lasted for over 60 minutes, for the remaining 45-50 minutes, it was completely Dr. Singhvi's show. He went on to say that the last summon that was issued to Karti Chidambaram was way back in August 2017. So why is it that the agency didn't care to issue him a single notice in the last 6 months if they really felt that Karti Chidambaram was being uncooperative? Secondly, he said that Karti Chidambaram responded to every call, every notice that was issued by the Central Bureau of Investigation. The lawyer representing Karti Chidambaram in the court, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singh, they also said that Karti went to London after taking due permission from the court and returned within stipulated time. He also said his client is willing to give his own passport. He is willing to give daily visits to Central Bureau of Investigation headquarters in the Lodi colony if the need be. But what is the need for arrest? Look at the previous cases. Look at the case of D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal. There is absolutely no precedent for arrest in such case. At maximum, you can issue summons and call Karti Chidambaram for questioning, which you have done in the past. They remember on one particular day, there was a questioning session with the CBI that lasted for 22 hours. That happened in the national capital. So what is stopping the CBI from doing that once again? So for the next 45 minutes, after CBI concluded its argument in the first 5 minutes, it was completely Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi's show. And in the end, as a result of that, in comparison to what the Central Bureau of Investigation asked for, that is 15-day custody, they only managed to get just 1 day custody. Now at 2:30 p.m., they will have to reproduce Karti Chidambaram.
All right, so Karti Chidambaram will have to be produced again in court. And let's see if the court decides to give further custody or grants him bail. But let's look at the big picture. This is definitely going to be the narrative. You're going to hear more and more of such corruption skeletons tumble out of the closet. It's going to be a track record of UPA versus a track record of NDA. Here's the track record so far. UPA 2 particularly. Here are the number of scams that came out. The SL Maxis scam, this was back in 2006. The deal loss was estimated to be anywhere around 700 crore rupees. The current status of that probe, Dayanidhi Maran, who was the telecom minister at that time, he's been acquitted in this case, but Karti is an accused in this case as well, in addition to the INX media case for which he was arrested today. In 2012, the coal scam came to light. It was said to be to the tune of 1,86,000 crore rupees. The current status of the Coalgate scam: Manmohan Singh, former Prime Minister, who was also an accused in this case, has been discharged by the court. The former Coal Secretary, H.C. Gupta, was convicted. Former Jharkhand Chief Minister Madhu Koda also convicted in the Coalgate scam. The 2010 CWG scam, the loss to the Exchequer was estimated at 90 crore rupees as per the CAG report. The current status: the trial, the criminal trial, is going on against Suresh Kalmadi, Congress leader, and others. And the most infamous of all, 2007, the 2G scam, said to be independent India's biggest scam ever. The loss to the Exchequer was touted as 1,76,000 crores in the CAG's report. The current status: in December, A. Raja, Kanimuri, both main accused DMK leaders, were acquitted by the trial court. The CBI has said that they will challenge this in a higher court. The NDA's report card. Now, in the last 4 years, there has been no big-ticket corruption scandal, certainly not personally against the Prime Minister, nor against any of his big cabinet ministers, not the top leaders in this government. There's not any personal taint, allegations of personal corruption against any big name in the Modi cabinet. There are allegations over the Rafale deal. So far, there is no probe. So far, there's been no proof that's been put out in the public domain. The Congress party has been asking for an investigation to look into the Rafale scam. Meanwhile, and this is going to be something that will hurt the government in the run-up to the political narrative of 2019, the repeated fat cats who seemingly have left Indian shores, who seemingly have got safe passage to leave Indian shores, whether it's a Vijay Mallya or a Nirav Modi or a Mehul Choksi, all of whom swindled public sector banks only to now be residing in some plush apartment in New York or Belgium or London, where have you. Let's try and make sense of this. Is this going to be the dominant narrative in 2019 as we look towards the next general elections? The UPA versus NDA and their respective records vis-a-vis corruption. We'll be joined here in our studios in a moment by former Secretary to the Government of India, Vijay Shankar Pandey. Balwinder Singh is former Special Director of the CBI. He'll be here in the studios as well. Muhammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress. Zafar Islam, spokesperson of the BJP. Anand Jain is managing partner at Acropolis Capital Group. Veer Sanghvi, resident commentator here at CNN News 18. And Shujoy Kantawala, lawyer at the Bombay High Court, joining us tonight from Mumbai. Let me start with you, Zafar Islam. I just listed out the three big initiatives that have been taken in the last 2 weeks by the Modi government: the anti-swindlers bill, a regulator for auditors, and an urgent audit of all NPA accounts above 50 crore rupees. Is the narrative for 2019, Zafar, going to be UPA corruption versus clean track record of NDA?
Zaka, as you rightly pointed out in your opening remarks, there is absolutely no scam during last 4 years of NDA government. That suggests that this government is fighting against corruption. This government is ensuring that those corrupt practices followed, which was followed earlier during UPA, and this government is following that the system works as per the rule of the book, as per rule book. What is more important for all of us to realize, Zaka, that the kind of corruption which was taking place between 2008, particularly I'm talking about between 2008 and 2012,
okay,
the 35 lakh crore which was sanctioned between 2008 and 2014, that part of 40% of those loans were actually was turned NPA at that point in time itself, purely because those companies were not in a position to, and their projected cash flows not in a position to service the kind of debt they were taking. So the rampant corruption was taking place during UPA government,
okay,
and today you have a very clean government, transparent governance model.
No, but what about Zafar, what about these fat cats who are running away? One second. What about these? And let me re-emphasize what I said. No allegations of personal corruption against any top ministers or the top leadership of the Bharatiya Janata Party. But what about these fat cats? Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya, they all ran away from India under your watch.
Well, let me tell you, Zaka, with a lot of sincerity and as a responsible party spokesperson, that those who have fled the country, will be brought back and they will have to face the law of the land and they will not go unpunished. Secondly, today one of the fattest cat has been taken to custody by CBI, an independent agency, and see the hue and cry of Congress party because it happened to be a corrupt and part of their family. That's why they are making hue and cry.
Okay, Congress party
they know
representative
all
is
this
here.
Corrupt.
Congress
and the
party
cat
representative is
you are talking
Mohammed
about
Khan.
they are the ones have been fed by UPA government, and we will ensure that those are brought to justice.
Respond to what Zafar Islam is saying.
Well, actually,
you may be politically opposed to the Modi government, but the fact is there is no big ticket allegation of corruption, personal corruption certainly, against any of the top ministers in this government.
Respectfully, I disagree with you. Of course, nothing that this fellow said dignifies or merits a reply, but I'll answer
what
what
about
you said.
Karti Chidambaram? You would certainly need to give a response on Karti Chidambaram.
You'll get an answer from the courts tomorrow itself. Do you know why they've given 1 day's custody? Is because they don't see merit in the accusation that he is not cooperating. He's been cooperating. You know, Mr. Chidambaram filed a case in the Supreme Court last week predicting exactly this. And the fact is that matter too will be heard. But anyway, we'll talk about that as and when it unfolds. I don't want to second guess the judiciary of our country. Now, there's something that I disagree with, Zaka. You've said there's been no big ticket corruption allegations against them. The very fact that these people don't investigate, the very fact they don't put out proof. When we asked them for proof on the Rafale deal, what did they say? Your channel reported it. They didn't inkar kar rahe the information. They said national security. When we had presented the same information when we entered into the same deal, suddenly they were bound by some illusory clause that they have negotiated to tie themselves in. Number two, Vyapam, Jaisha, what are you talking about? These are big ticket items.
I said no personal allegations of corruption against the top ministers in this government. From the Prime Minister downwards.
You know what the difference between the 4 examples you gave for the Congress time and now is? The Congress had the courage of its convictions to investigate, to order investigations during its tenure, to arrest people. But finally,
and
tell me something. Will this government have the conviction to investigate? They haven't investigated, Zaka. That is not evidence of absolute. This is not evidence of absolute proof.
The dominant narrative. The choice before the electorate, the choice before the people of India in 2019 is going to be this: that you have Mr. Modi's government. So far, no allegations against any of the top ministers. You have the UPA too, and the less said about it, the better it is. Is this going to be what you and I, the electorate of India, have to face in 2019? The choice that's before us.
Zaka, as far as UPA is concerned, things are out in the open.
Yes.
But NDA rule, 3 cases are there where, people are raising serious questions. Why this was allowed to happen for 4 years? Nirav Modi's case, Mehul Choksi's case, then Malya's case, and Lalit Modi's case.
Okay.
Now they have swindled to the tune of 30,000 to 40,000 crores. This is not a small amount. If you add up the corruption during UPA, it will be hovering around the same figure. So, in case these issues are not tackled properly and these people are not brought to book and money is not returned to the taxpayer, I tell you, the narrative will be same. One party.
I just listed out, and I want our producers to play this out again. They are bringing a new anti-swindler law in the Parliament session that begins on the 5th of March, which basically says, and I want Mr. Singh also to weigh in on this. What this law will allow investigating agencies to do is to attach properties of accused persons, people who have taken money from public sector banks and are refusing to pay that. It will allow investigators to attach property without securing a conviction and without securing an order from a court of law. Don't you think that this would go some way at least in deterring these fat cats?
I think the problem in this country is not inadequacy of laws. There are a lot of laws regarding freezing of assets.
Okay.
The problem in this country is our capacity to enforce laws. And capacity, how do we enhance that capacity? Every agency is working in silo. Be it Ministry of Corporate Affairs for corporate regulation, be it investigating agencies, ED, CBI, SFIO, and sometimes SEBI. Now all these agencies are working in silo. They are not working together. And our capacity is very, very limited to tackle these problems.
Okay.
When it comes to
when you say capacity to tackle these problems is limited, what do you mean? Or they don't
I
have the
mean
skills
capacity to prevent frauds, build a fraud risk management system in governance on the whole, the macroeconomic factors which facilitate frauds, for example, shell companies, accommodation entry operators, abuse of participatory
why does this not happen in other countries? I'm sure there are other fat cats in other countries who are also trying to swindle money from public banks.
There are shell companies and misuse of shell companies all over the world.
Sure.
But the scale at which it is happening in India and the number of shell companies which are operating is something mind-boggling.
Yeah, but how do we stop
when
that?
I first brought it
How
to the
do we
notice
stop
of
that?
when I first brought it to the notice of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, everyone was flabbergasted.
Okay.
They could not think of this scale.
Okay.
Now that we have started recognizing this problem of shell companies, we need to work on it as a whole.
Okay.
One government approach, not that every agency working separately.
Let me get in Anand Jain as well as Veer Sanghvi into this conversation. Anand Jain, do you agree with what Mr. Singh has said, that you have agencies here, whether it's investigating agencies or whether it's ministries, working in silos, and that's why they are not able to deal with the problem of shell companies, for example? The Prime Minister repeatedly cites the figure of 2 lakh shell companies that have been busted post-demonetization.
Well, that is only a part of the problem, and I think everyone is missing a bigger point, which is that no amount of legislative or criminal action can prevent a crime of opportunity. So this is not a crime of need. This is a crime that has occurred because everyone, all the businessmen were presented with an opportunity, and that opportunity arose because the underwriting mechanism, the credit standards of the banks were all policy driven, and that's because the government owns the banks. So nothing can solve the problem that is endemic in Indian business until the government gets out of bank ownership.
No, but
everything else
hang on. I've heard this. Well, one second, Anand, one second. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I've heard this for far too long after this PNB scam came out, that the solution to all of this, the magic wand to all of this, is privatization of banks. Now, are you telling me that such scams don't happen in private sector banks in our country or in private sector banks around the world?
Well, I'll answer in 2 parts. A, they do not happen in the magnitude you're describing, even close to the magnitude you're describing or that we're witnessing, A. And B, even if it does, it is the loss that is being borne by the private shareholders of that institution, not by the taxpayers of this country. So why would you and I care if a scam were to, befall upon, I don't want to take the name of any private sector bank in the country, but let's say private sector one.
Okay.
Why do you and I care? I don't care. I mean, the point is, the reason why we're having this discussion is because it is taxpayer money that has been taken out, and any amount of legislative action we undertake, and of course, from the political narrative, if the only tool in your kit is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Okay.
So all that Mr. Modi can do, Prime Minister Modi can do, is do what he is doing, and impeccably honest as he is, as his cabinet is, as his government is. But this action is too little too late. What the government has to do is to get out of the banking system.
Veer Sanghvi, how much would the war on corruption as it's been framed by the Modi government be blunted by Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi and the other fat cats leaving India with public sector money, money of public sector banks? How much would it get blunted because of, will this stick is the point that I'm trying to get at?
Well, Zaka, you suggested that the next election would be fought with the UPA being portrayed as corrupt and the BJP saying, look, we were not as corrupt no matter what people are saying. You've forgotten how bad the UPA is. I think what we forget is that Mr. Modi fought an election on the UPA's corruption once in 2014, and he won it very resoundingly. The people of India have already punished the UPA for what they see as its corruption. The very fact that we are now talking about them on par and saying is the UPA corruption much greater than the allegations against the BJP shows you how far we've travelled from 2014. The second point worth remembering is that one reason why Mr. Modi won is because he appealed to aspirational India. He suggested the Congress comprised fat cats and dynasts and crooks, whereas he was for the guy who was going to make it himself.
Yeah.
Ever since Rahul Gandhi played this whole Sood Boot Ki Sarkar card, he's blunted that. And every time Mehul Choksi takes the plane and runs away, or Nirav Modi leaves with thousands of crores of our money, it suggests that again, Mr. Modi needs to indicate to his constituency that he's not on the side of the Sood Boot Walas, he's still one of them. And that, I think, is the bigger problem.
Okay, Zafar, you want to quickly respond before I go to Sujay Kantawala? I mean, this is a big problem for your government. Yes, there are no allegations of personal corruption against any of your top ministers, any of the top leadership of the BJP. But every time a Mehul Choksi leaves or a Nirav Modi leaves, it sticks. It sticks on this government.
Because it happens on your watch.
Zaka, See, this is one of our achievements, that it is a non-corrupt government, and anybody who wants to compare us with UPA, they will find that, they will get to know that yes, UPA was the most corrupt government and we have given a transparent governance and a very honest government.
Sir, I think it's clear that you are unable to match the UPA performance at the very least.
Why do we forget? A lot of structural reforms we have undertaken. A lot of structural reforms we have undertaken. The world is acknowledging that. Today you see the GDP number. The Congress, the same
Yes, after you change the base year to give a higher rate despite delivering lower results.
That the GDP growth will not happen. You will never see 5.6% or 6.5%. Today you have a 7.2%.
Shame on you that you're talking about 5 after talking about 8 during your campaign.
Because all the numbers suggest a lot of economic activities started taking place. Just keep your mouth shut. Allow me to complete.
Thanks to Mudra.
All I'm saying that the economic activity has started. Lot of achievements of the government which will
Where
be
is this economic activity?
public domain.
Is it only in Shakas?
Quarter 3 number came at 7.2%.
Well, kind of a statement by the incident like Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi.
Disagree with that, but again you must agree with the
people do.
I tell you why. I tell you why.
Have a lot of recall value, but we will ensure that people are brought back to India and they vote the music here.
Even 5.7 happened after changing the
I
base
tell you something. 7.2 is a projection. It is not going to happen.
No,
by their own estimates.
It's actual GDP.
I don't think that is correct. I don't think that is correct, and we are addressing a press conference on this very issue tomorrow to explain why the calculation method says itself flawed.
No,
we're tired of the numbers. This is a dishonest government.
I'll
tell you something honestly.
It applies as much to 5.7 as it applies to 7.2.
I don't think it's 7.2, and I'll tell you why. Simply because the number itself is based on many assumptions which are not correct.
No, one second. I think we're getting
I think Dhaka, they are questioning CSO. Now they are started questioning CSO, which has established track record.
I'll take it.
One second. We've done enough and more discussions on the economy. This is not a debate on the economy. Let's come back to the issue at hand. The issue at hand is corruption. I want to play out a bite from what the Prime Minister said. He said this in Pondicherry a couple of days back. He repeated this in Karnataka yesterday, that basically the choice before the Indian electorate is going to be 48 months of NDA rule and 48 years of rule by one family. Can I just play out that bite and then I'll come back to our panelists.
हमने क्या हासिल किया? 48 साल उन्होंने राज किया, हमने 48 महीने देश को लेकर के दिखाया है। देश के बुद्धिजीवी वर्ग को विचार करना होगा कि एक परिवार के 48 ईयर में हमने क्या खोया, क्या पाया।
Shujoy Kantawala is joining us from Mumbai. Shujoy, is this going to be what we are faced with, the Indian electorate is faced with in 2019? 48 months versus 48 years.
See, let me tell you that there are crores of people watching this debate, and they include bank officials, and they include scamsters, would-be scamsters, or scamsters who have fled the country. They all realize how this banking system is operating. It's debit, credit. Now there is no reconciliation. That's one problem, and that's one big loophole. The papers are all perfectly made when the proposal is put up. But there is no physical verification, there is no regular check. A bank officer is treated as the best son-in-law to have in this country. That is a problem, the accountability factor. And therefore, before an account turns into an NPA, you don't have a cracked forensic expert team in the particular bank or the institution to sniff it out. We still don't have those forensic experts. So as a result of which you have this great number of NPAs. Now, if you have people who flee the country in their private jets, and if you are helpless to see that they cannot be brought back, and they don't have assets enough left behind to kind of liquidate and to recover that money, then any new law which you bring to say that we can catch these assets and all, because there will be no assets to catch. There will be no assets to seize. So therefore one has to have a system of checks and balance by which you sniff these people out. Before that, they run away from the country with our money.
Vijay Shankar Pandey wants to respond. The inflation of value of assets and the loans taken, which are far higher than the actual value of assets, that's a problem that no law will be able to tackle.
Zaka, I have been a managing director of a company. I have also borrowed from banks. Every 3 months, the banker used to come and search our godown and physically check whether I have that much inventory or not. If somebody says there is no system, he doesn't understand banking, he is lying. It's all done in collusion. Everybody knew that Mehul Choksi or Nirav Modi didn't have the assets to back the loan. Still they gave it. They have to answer for it. The government of the day has to answer.
No, this how does this happen? This happens, you're saying, because the bank officers also get a cut?
Absolutely in collusion. And I tell you, a bank loan to the tune of tens and thousands of crores.
Yeah.
Everybody from top to bottom knows about it. We have handled these kind of cases. Every banker is supposed to see how their big, accounts are performing.
Yeah.
If the CMD of the bank, if the banking secretary and the finance minister could see this, sorry, they can't today say
Mohammad Khan
that they have run away
and
with the money.
to respond as well.
Well, actually, on the subject of the bill itself, and I want to add to what Sir was saying, he's absolutely right. This bill is an eyewash, and this is only a result of them panicking because they know this is picking up traction. Let us count, Zaka, how many laws there are. And I noticed that you were doing rushes of how many laws there are. There's a SARFAESI Act.
Yeah,
there is the IBC. There is Section 151 of the CPC. There's 482 of the CRPC. You can attach property so easily. It can happen at any point of time. The Debt Recovery Tribunal has the powers as well. Why are you therefore bringing the superfluous law in at this stage? The fact is, Zaka, they know they are helpless when it comes to these people. These people have fled on their watch. You remember in 2016 February, with great fanfare, they announced a better banking bureau under Vinod Rai.
Yeah.
And Vinod Rai wrote a letter that I've never seen a Prime Minister like Modi. Oh my God, I'm responding directly to him, etc. What's the purpose of that? If I remember correctly, was vigilance over the governance of banks, public sector banks. You failed. You claimed you knew about the NPA problem in 2014. You get no excuse now. This is on your doorstep.
The point being made is you don't need additional laws, Zafar. You already have enough and more laws.
You're befooling people.
Well, Zaka, there are two questions I would like to answer. First, on this
no amount of punitive action.
They are totally against passing any legislation. They do not want that the parliament should conduct this. The fact that they have majority in Rajya Sabha. Well, Rajya Sabha, lot of bills are standing.
But I'm telling you here on this channel in front of all these viewers, bring the law, we'll pass it, we'll support you.
They will not support, as a responsible opposition, they will not support the party legislation as well, because they want fraudsters to continue. But anyway, we will continue our efforts to pass this legislation.
No, but he's saying that national television that they will support.
What is more important?
Mohammad Khan is saying on national television that Congress party will support the bill. अब बिल ले आए.
वो सुनना नहीं चाहते ना.
आएगा ना, बिल आएगा,
लाइए ना,
बिल आएगा तो
कौन रोक रहा है? सर आपको पता है 2017 का ड्राफ्टेड बिल है, आपने इंट्रोड्यूस ही नहीं किया आज तक. Zaka, you know the bill was drafted in 2017. It was never introduced till today.
They have always demonstrated that triple talaq bill.
Parliament function for the smallest amount of time because they didn't convene it.
Okay, one second. This is getting a bit unruly. One second.
Bring this law. One second.
It got stuck in the upper court.
Look at the number of, and I want to get Veer Sanghvi and Anna Jain back into the conversation. Look at the number of opposition leaders who have one corruption case or another. One second. Let me get. I'll come back to you, Zafar. I'll come back to you. Let me please go to Veer as well as to Anna Jain. Look at the number of opposition leaders, Veer, who've got allegations of corruption against them. The latest is Karti Chidambaram in the INX media case. There's already an ongoing probe against him in the SL Maxis case. Sonia and Rahul Gandhi themselves are on bail in the National Herald case. Robert Vadra, there was the probe by a retired judge. We are given to understand that he was implicated, or his role has been implicated. Bhupinder Singh Hooda, former Chief Minister of Haryana, two-term Chief Minister of Haryana, he's been charge-sheeted by the CBI. Lalu Prasad is in jail. Mamata Banerjee's leaders are implicated in either Narda or Sharda. Mayawati faces DA and NHRM scam cases. I mean, if Mr. Modi goes back to the people in 2019 and says, look, here is X, Y, Z, the who's who of the opposition, all of them have some Damocles sword hanging over their head, and there's none against my government or against me, why isn't that a narrative that people would buy?
Well, Zaka, because many of the cases, if not most of the ones you're referring to, took place before 2014. Exactly. Many of the cases you refer to, things like the 2G case, Commonwealth scam, all this stuff, was the UPA filing cases against its own. The BJP, I understand, has decided it won't charge any of its ministers. Well, good luck with that. But therefore, you're comparing apples and oranges. Also, if he goes back in 2019 and says, hey guys, remember I told you in 2014 they're crooks? You know what? They're still crooks. People are going to say, yes, we know they're crooks. What have you done in 5 years?
Okay, I mean, they say history repeats itself the second time as a tragedy. This was the narrative in 2014. How can you go back 5 years later and continue to peddle the same narrative?
Well, I think the metaphor is it repeats the second time as a farce.
Sorry.
But in this example, I think Prime Minister Modi has legitimate grounds. He has legitimate grounds to go back and claim that his government has been indisputably honest. And that is incontrovertible. Nobody can stand up and point a finger to his government. But that's not the point here. I think the issue, and I don't want to belabor the point of bank privatization, which I do believe is the elephant in the room. That is the only question that is worth answering. But ignore that for a second. Let's introduce a second aspect into this discussion, which is, what happens to the nature of our republic and the nature of our moral dimensions to democracy when you create such concentration of power in the hands of any government, whether that be a BJP or a Congress or somebody else. Now what that does, we already have enough laws on the books. Now when you create these degrees of laws in which you can put somebody in prison and as you rightly said, in the midst of all this hysteria, everybody's very excited about the fact that you can take away somebody's assets without due and proper conviction. Now to me, I hear that and I'm aghast. I mean, you're telling me that somebody who wants to undertake some sort of a vendetta, forget the vendetta, somebody who wants to undertake some sort of obtuse or opaque action against some other entrepreneur, he can essentially take over his assets without any due course of law. Now that corrodes the very nature of our political and economic system. If we want to be a great power, if we want to be a great economy, we cannot do that belittling our own foundations, our economic foundations.
Sujoy Kantawala, will this give too much power?
Out of this
will this give too much powers to the investigating agencies to attach assets randomly without due process?
That's the point, no? They're saying that these people were escaped.
So yeah, we are seeing it again and again every day in court that they abuse their powers regularly. Yeah. They act in excess of their jurisdiction, and therefore courts have come to the rescue and struck down their actions. But the other problem that today we are facing is we are 700 High Court judges short in our country. In fact, Calcutta, from 1 week, the lawyers have gone on strike because instead of the sanctioned strength of 72, you have only 27 High Court judges. So therefore, if you make more cases, you will need more judges to conduct the trials. You will need to appoint more commissions or maybe tribunals. Like NCLT, everything is understaffed. In fact, if you see the enforcement directorate that is now picking up case after case almost on a daily basis and invoking the PMLA, they are severely understaffed. So how are you going to go into these hundreds and thousands of documents and complicated structures that have been developed by all these scamsters and secure a conviction?
Okay, aren't there enough powers, Mr. Singh, already with the agencies if they want to attach assets?
May I say this, Zaka? Just one last point.
Okay, quickly, 10 seconds. Anand, 10 seconds.
Zaka, you can create any degree of punitive action. To the previous commentator's point, that how will they enforce it? You could have capital punishment. You can shoot them in the public square, and I can tell you even then the crimes don't cease because you cannot take away a crime of opportunity by simply removing the people.
Okay.
So what you have to do is to remove the motivation. The motivation exists in the hands of where the money pot is.
Okay, Mr. Singh, aren't there enough provisions already in the law?
I think instead of focusing on punitive aspect alone, our focus should be on preventive aspect. And how do we prevent? We really need, today is the day of databases.
That's right.
Okay.
We need to build databases of all Hawala operators, be they internal Hawala operators or external Hawala.
No, but what about the point that Mr. Pandey made? Is there collusion between bank officers and
How do you prevent that? I am not limiting to bank frauds alone. The entire economy and the entire misconduct of any nature, be it money laundering, be it bank frauds, be it swindling, thousands of people in Sharda scam or other scams, all are finally related with three categories of people.
Which is?
Which is shell company operators, accommodation entry operators, and Hawala operators.
Okay.
Now, we have data of these people lying in silos in 5-7 agencies.
Different
5-7 agencies. There are 6-7 agencies.
You have to bring them together. You don't think that will happen? I'll give you the final word to Mohammad Khan and to Zafar Islam, but you wanted to make a quick rebuttal.
Will you allow me to just finish in 1 second? If those agencies start sharing that data, and not manually, but let there be a
common database,
computerized system of data sharing.
Okay.
To the extent need to know basis of each agency.
Okay.
It will definitely act as a big reduction in opportunity which
Mr. Jain was talking about.
The 2 points. Anti-swindling law, you know, the powers, we are confusing the issue. The powers always exist with the recovery authority to, attach the assets without conviction. So I don't know why this law is being brought. That you, without conviction, you can, as recovery officer, I have served for 30 years. And the moment bank sends the recovery certificate, as collector and commissioner, you attach the property and sell it off. Only because of the Debt Recovery Act of 1996, that the power was taken away from the collectors and commissioners, the regular, authorities, and sent to the tribunals.
To the DRT,
so how can you say that we want first conviction?
Mohammad Khan and then Zafar Islam for the final word.
Two quick points. Zaka, it is a hopeful measure that the 2019 election will be fought on the issues of development versus corruption. But in reality, you and I both know, Zaka, what the election will be fought on. We got a taste of it in Gujarat. The more
so you're saying that the real issue will be Hindu-Musliman corruption.
Exactly. As you get closer to the election, etc., and the more panic they get. Because you remember, their politics comes with an expiry date. You can fool the people only for a certain amount of time. And they've reached that expiry date. People are fatigued. They're calling them Jumla bazes to their face. You saw what happened with Amit Shah and that farmer in yesterday's rally? It's going to be about religion. That's what these people will do.
में आपने बोला कि यूपीए भ्रष्ट है, यूपीए करप्ट है, उनको वोट आउट कर दिया. दोबारा कैसे आप जाके बता सकते हैं कि यूपीए करप्ट है इसलिए दोबारा हमें वोट दे दीजिए?
और कोई रिकॉर्ड है नहीं आपका तो क्या साबित करेंगे?
नहीं, जफर बताएं, लास्ट वर्ड.
I think we need not tell the people of this country that UPA is corrupt. It's something which is known fact and people of this country know. And that should not be the issue we need to take to the people now in 2019.
And you've proven
because a lot of achievements we have done in last 4 years, and that is something we will talk. The image of India in the eyes of the global community has substantially enhanced. It is a superpower in the eyes of the global community. And secondly, these people have always adopted the policy of divisive policy to divide the society between Muslim, Hindu,
Sikh,
and Dalit. All this policy they have adopted, but we have always adopted one policy. Sabka saath, sabka vikas will continue the policy of development, policy, transparency, policy to take everyone along, and they will again be defeated. Responding victory we will again register in 2019.
That will be decided by the people of this country, but I'll go back and correct the metaphor that I use, that history repeats itself as a farce and then it's a tragedy, right? Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our panelists. Thanks for joining us. But like I said, this is going to be the narrative for 2019. Corruption of the UPA vis-a-vis the relatively blemish-free record of the NDA. We'll see if the people of India buy that narrative. Quick break. When we come back on the other side, the 82-year-old Kanchi's seer, Jayendra Saraswati, passed away today in Chennai. He was hospitalized with breathing problems. We'll get you details when Face Off returns.
Under fire after Nirav's bank loot, government makes a big move.
Just a quick word whether...
Sorry, Aisha.
Hello?
After 2 years of raids, Karti finally arrested. Charged, Karti received 10 lakh kickback from INX Media.
Rahul ji, will you not defend Chidambaram?
Modi Sarkar declares war on corrupt opposition. Opposition cries witch hunt, vendetta politics, divisionary tactics. After Chidambaram Jr.'s arrest, is senior Chidambaram next? Tonight at 9 on Viewpoint.